Cancel. Our flight was cancelled. I'm afraid I'll have to cancel our meeting tomorrow. You'll just have to ring John and cancel. Explosive. Because the gas is highly explosive, it needs to be kept in high-pressure containers. A small explosive device, equals bomb, was set off outside the UN headquarters today. The report examines how explosive influences decisions in education and learning. Prepare. The prosecution wanted more time to prepare their case. The report examines how prepare influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why prepare is important for academic analysis. Crusade. The report examines how crusade influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why crusade is important for academic analysis. Students are expected to use crusade accurately when discussing evidence-based arguments. Hamlet. The report examines how Hamlet influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why Hamlet is important for academic analysis. Students are expected to use Hamlet accurately when discussing evidence-based arguments. Surgeon. The report examines how surgeon influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why surgeon is important for academic analysis. Students are expected to use surgeon accurately when discussing evidence-based arguments. Hall. A huge tiled entrance hall. The report examines how hall influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why hall is important for academic analysis. Discourage. You should not let one failure discourage you. The report examines how discourage influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why discourage is important for academic analysis. Predispose. They take pains to hire people whose personalities predispose them to serve customers well. The report examines how predispose influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why predispose is important for academic analysis. Oversee. A team leader was appointed to oversee the project. The report examines how oversee influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why oversee is important for academic analysis. Pollution. California's tough anti-pollution laws. The report examines how pollution influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why pollution is important for academic analysis. Pretend. Let's pretend we're on the moon. He's not asleep, he's just pretending. To pretend ignorance of the situation would be irresponsible. Convection. Clouds which lift warm, moist air by convection high into the atmosphere. The report examines how convection influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why convection is important for academic analysis. Warrant. Therefore, it is important to note that individual situations may warrant including additional characters in the list of special characters. Learning incessantly is the surest way to keep pace with the times in the information age and an infallible warrant of success in times of uncertainty. At Dean Miller's suggestion, I have allowed her to give the current student organizers the opportunity to propose a program for next semester that might warrant continuation of this event on campus. Ecliptic. On the astrolabe, an off-centered circle represents the orbit of the Sun, the ecliptic. Recall that vernal equinox is one of the two intersection points of the celestial equator and the ecliptic. Because the Moon and bright planets wander through the sky near the ecliptic plane, such occultation events are not uncommon, but they are dramatic, especially in telescopic views. Conceal. The shadows concealed her as she crept up to the house. The path was concealed by long grass. The report examines how conceal influences decisions in society and crime. Overrate. More men are finding out that the joys of work have been overrated. The report examines how overrate influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why overrate is important for academic analysis. Meanwhile, cook the sauce over a medium heat until it thickens. Meanwhile, start boiling the water for the pasta. The report examines how meanwhile influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why meanwhile is important for academic analysis. Opulent. Evening dresses and opulent fabrics. The report examines how opulent influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why opulent is important for academic analysis. Coincide. When our vacations coincided, we often holidayed together. The report examines how coincide influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why coincide is important for academic analysis. Competent. A competent mechanic should be able to fix the problem. The report examines how competent influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why competent is important for academic analysis. Require. Campbell's broken leg will probably require surgery. What's required is a complete reorganization of the system. Most houseplants require regular watering. Scratch. There were deep scratches all over her face. Don't worry, it's only a scratch, equals not a serious injury. She was unharmed apart from a few cuts and scratches. Compassionate. A caring, compassionate man. I allowed him to go home on compassionate grounds. One measure of a civilized and compassionate society is how well it treats its prison population. Cooperative. He was doing his best to be cooperative. The report examines how cooperative influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why cooperative is important for academic analysis. Strategist. Military strategists had devised a plan that guaranteed a series of stunning victories. The report examines how strategist influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why strategist is important for academic analysis. Irritable. Joe was tired, irritable, and depressed. The report examines how irritable influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why irritable is important for academic analysis. Triple. A triple murder investigation. A triple bill of horror movies. The triple world champion. Reserved. Seats, or sometimes entire tables, were reserved. The report examines how reserved influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why reserved is important for academic analysis. Temper. Pete hit his brother in a fit of temper. The report examines how temper influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why temper is important for academic analysis. Tickle. Mommy, this blanket tickles. Maisie's fur collar was tickling her neck. The report examines how tickle influences decisions in education and learning. Object. If no one objects, I would like Mrs. Harrison to be present. The report examines how object influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why object is important for academic analysis. Accessible. The island is only accessible by boat. There is a church which is easily accessible from my home. The report examines how accessible influences decisions in education and learning. Hang. If he is found guilty, he will almost certainly hang. The report examines how hang influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why hang is important for academic analysis. Authenticate. The painting has been authenticated by experts. Passwords which can authenticate electronic documents. The report examines how authenticate influences decisions in science and technology. Suffice. A light lunch will suffice. The report examines how suffice influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why suffice is important for academic analysis. Concede. That's the only possible solution. Yes, I suppose so, Charles conceded. The report examines how concede influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why conceit is important for academic analysis. Notable. Every country in the world signed the treaty, with one notable exception, the United States. The report examines how notable influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why notable is important for academic analysis. Unparalleled. An achievement unparalleled in sporting history. The report examines how unparalleled influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why unparalleled is important for academic analysis. Plush. Their casino is the plushest in town. The report examines how plush influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why plush is important for academic analysis. Evaporate. Most of the water had evaporated. The sun evaporates moisture on the leaves. The report examines how evaporate influences decisions in education and learning. Commission. The dealer takes a 20% commission on the sales he makes. The report examines how commission influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why commission is important for academic analysis. Staircase. They walked down the staircase together. The report examines how staircase influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why staircase is important for academic analysis. Flip. We flipped a coin to see who would go first. There's quite an art to flipping pancakes. The report examines how flip influences decisions in education and learning. Connect. We'd like 2 rooms with connecting doors, equals doors that join the rooms. The report examines how connect influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why connect is important for academic analysis. Resume. She hopes to resume work after the baby is born. The rebels have resumed hostilities against government troops. The report examines how resume influences decisions in education and learning. Address. Send a stamped, self-addressed envelope, equals with your address on it so it can be sent back to you. The report examines how address influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why address is important for academic analysis. Posture. The report examines how posture influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why posture is important for academic analysis. Students are expected to use posture accurately when discussing evidence-based arguments. Spiral. The maze is actually 2 interlocking spiral. The report examines how spiral influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why spiral is important for academic analysis. Decapitate. The report examines how decapitate influences decisions in education and learning. In the lecture, researchers explain why decapitate is important for academic analysis. Students are expected to use decapitate accurately when discussing evidence-based arguments.